Good morning. Okay, we are finally in North America. Good job for us not being a U.S. history class. So, we are talking about pre-Columbian North America, basically where the lower 48 states are now. One thing I do want you to understand, which most of you know, there is no such thing as an Indian nation. What we are dealing with, Native Americans, there's not one people. There are different tribes. Each tribe is very different from each other. We're talking about many nations that were already here, not one united. So this is going to take a little bit of time to go over all of them, as we are not even talking about, say, the Aztecs with their huge empire, or even the Mayans with their big land area. We're talking about a lot of groups. So first, the geography of North America. I am giving you geography maps for homework and so forth now, by the way, because yes, you are responsible for knowing what's where in North America. Welcome to History. Geography matters. So, the continent of North America has a very diverse geography. Believe me, I keep trying to figure out how I ended up in Phoenix, which is so much different from where I was born, and a lot different from where I was raised. For one thing, both of those places have plenty of water and it's green, unlike here. So, we have two mountain ranges. You need to know these. One is the Appalachian Mountains. Those are in the east. Those are what cuts through Pennsylvania, West Virginia. All of those are the Appalachians. As a matter of fact, to expand, our country is going to need to figure out how to get through the Appalachians. They're going to be in the way. And then there's the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains are even tougher. They're big. They're much bigger. They're a younger mountain range. So when mountain ranges are created, the tectonic plates come together and go boom, and you get these big jagged. Well, over time, the mountains erode. That's the Appalachians. They're a much older range. They are more rounded. They are smaller. The Rockies is really a young mountain range. It's big. It's jagged. It's tough to get over. Just try driving your car up them. So, the Mississippi, so those are two mountain ranges, Appalachian and Rocky. We have one huge river, which is the Mississippi. That is the largest river in the United States. It comes when from several other rivers come together, which is what we mean by fed. So, for example, the Missouri is at the top of one part of the Mississippi. Then you have the Arkansas down here coming up, the Red River, and then the Ohio River coming this way to where it meets the Missouri and goes down. And then even these rivers are fed or created by other water streams. For example, I grew up by the Miami River, which feeds into the Ohio. So it's still a significant river that then dumps into the Ohio, which then dumps into the Mississippi, which then dumps into the Gulf of Mexico. And you are going to need to know this, because once the Erie Canal is built, you can actually go from the Hudson to the Erie River, to the Muskegon or Miami, down to the Ohio, down to the Mississippi, and to the Gulf of Mexico. And this is how we traded for many, many decades. It was actually a great invention. And it's why a lot of farms are there, because of the natural rivers. It's why you have so many cities along it, because it's perfect for trade. So you have the farmers, you have the trade. That's where you're going to place yourself. Because once again, as you should have learned in world history, most settlements start by rivers. And another river you need to know is the Colorado River, which, by the way, is in Arizona as part of it. That's what created the Grand Canyon, the Colorado River. It runs around along the Great Basin region. It used to feed or produce water for many of the native nations and tribes in Arizona until the Hoover Dam was built, cut off the Colorado, and cut off the river water source for our Native American tribes that are in Arizona, and basically mess up their entire way of life. Rivers. So, once again, this is our beautiful North America. Here are the Rocky Mountains. They are you'll notice, a much more jagged and larger mountain range than the Appalachians. So the Appalachians are up here and they begin in New York, go through Pennsylvania, West Virginia, down through the south. This is the bluegrass area, by the way. Bluegrass grows up in the Appalachian Mountains. Also rednecks. So here, as I mentioned, is the Hudson, which you're going to get a canal going into the lakes, or into the Great Lakes. Then the Erie comes down here and here into the Ohio. Boom, there's the Missouri, the red. All creating the Mississippi, which comes down. Yay! And into the Gulf of Mexico. So, our early time periods. Well, where do you think people are going? Where's the Colorado? Over here. To settle. So, early American history is divided, by the way, into two periods, of course. But if you hear me use these terms, you know what I mean. One is pre-Columbian. That means before Columbus crash landed in Haiti or the Dominican Republic, on Hispania, the island of Hispania, where Haiti and the Dominican Republic are today. And post-Columbian, which means after he crash landed and the conquistadores come in, then all the European settlers come in and start pushing other people away, because, you know, we have this concept about land. If you plant your flag there, it's yours now, even if it belonged to somebody else already. So, once again, pre-Columbian, before 1492. Post-Columbian literally is after Columbus says, hey, wait, there's a continent here. He's not even the guy who said there's a continent here, but, you know, he gets credit. So, the time periods. In the time period before Columbus, we're going to divide everything into 5 regions. There's 5 regions you need to know. And these are time regions. So eras. The Paleolithic Age, the Archaic Age, the Woodland Period, the Middle Period, and the Mississippian Period. Paleolithic, once again, is the same as it means in world history. People are on foot. They're pretty native. We don't have any of our fun inventions yet. Thank you, Sumerians. So, more Ice Age. So the Ice Age period is a time when the Earth is mostly covered by large sheets of ice called glaciers. You know, things that break off and create icebergs. Oh, it looks like our class... Nope, the mascot's going to go behind our computer. So that's about 1.9 million to 10,000 BC. And this does cause... Oh, looks like the mascot's going to get in the way of our lesson today. Okay, so once again, once the Ice Age starts ending, and we're still but technically in the end, it causes water levels to drop, because when icebergs and ice melt, the ocean rises. That's just what happens. It's what we've been screaming about global warming and why it's a problem. So Iceland Formation is formed in the Bering Strait, called Beringia, because we have so much ice at this point, the ocean's lower. And basically what we're saying is Alaska and Siberia used to connect. And that under that water, there's still a pathway. Just the oceans have now risen and covered much of it. And this allowed, you know, people to migrate from Russia to North America. But once again, mostly those are Eskimos, so we only talk about it as far as Alaska is concerned, as we are not discussing Canada in U.S. history. But DNA's been done. Siberians and Eskimos are definitely the same people, same ancestors. So we migrate, but as I said, we're not talking about that. We've already covered that in the Paleolithic Age. So wave bye to the Paleolithic, and we'll move on to the Archaic. So the Archaic Age begins when Native Americans began settling communities, staying in one area. So Archaic, we are just talking about Native Americans. And they began to develop horticulture, farming, you know, by domesticating the native wild plants. And this includes, and know these because these are New World crops. You need to understand these do come from the New World being North and South America, Old World being what we call, well, it's Eurasia and Africa. Eurasia is Europe and Asia. You'll hear that term because technically there's no ocean between those two, so there's just a mountain range dividing them. So that's when you hear Eurasia, it means Europe and Asia as one big continent. So Old World is Eurasia and Africa. New World, North and South America. So they began developing these plants, which are New World plants. That is squash, gourds, pumpkin, which is technically a gourd, sunflowers, bean, and maize. So until Columbus traveled to the Americas, nobody in Europe, Asia, or Africa were eating any of these foods. These were new foods to them. Potato and corn being going to be the big ones that actually affect the others. And this is the beginning of our Columbian Exchange. However, Columbian Exchange and Triangular Exchange are the same things, and it's going to get a lot more complex. But for now, realize that New World foods are part of it. They also have native domesticated the dog as a pack animal, a beast of burden for puppies. And the turkey, of course, is a ready source of food. Turkey also being a New World creature, a New World food, as we do eat it. The Puritans got off in North America and said, hey, look at these big birds. Oh, look, they're tasty. And they're kind of dumb, so they're easy to hunt. So then we get to the woodland period, which I will go over later. So, woodland period, just know right now, the woodland is basically the eastern Midwest and Pennsylvania. It's the areas just west of the Appalachian Mountains.